Find it interesting that my Democrat colleagues are so enraged by this non-story and had nothing to say when we had a president who literally couldn't put two sentences together for 2 years. President Autopin was the commander-in-chief. No questions about his inability to construct sentences, let alone foreign policy. But here we are with a fake story. But this is what happens when you have a party that has reached actually not rock bottom yet. Not rock bottom yet. But they got nothing. Zero. No issues, no leader, fringe issues define them. So they're going to glom onto the story of the day. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing for them. Just like, by the way, these calls to,
Eric Schmitt just dropped a political bomb in a recent Senate hearing, and everyone's talking. His message to Democrats? I feel bad for you. But what was behind that statement? Was it just political theater or a wake-up call to the left? Let's break it all down. Welcome back to the channel where I cut through the noise and dive into the real stories shaking Washington. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive like this one. At a recent Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt came out swinging. He slammed Democrats for latching onto a non-story while ignoring serious issues under President Biden's leadership. His words were explosive. He said their party was captured by a radical element and claimed their focus on fringe issues showed they had, quote, nothing, zero, no issues, no leader. This wasn't just a generic
violence. The only thing, district court rulings, the only thing that's been talked about are political solutions. The only person I remember standing in front of the Supreme Court calling for a whirlwind on Justice Kavanaugh and other Supreme Court justices that were followed up by assassination attempts of Supreme Court justices that were followed up by violent protests outside their homes where they had to move out of their homes was Chuck Schumer. And as long as we're denouncing violence, how about firebombing Tesla dealerships? This Antarctic kind of strain runs through the left. And to my Democrat friends, I feel bad for you because your party has been captured by a radical element that is pro-Hamas, that is pro-violence, that is firebombing, Tesla dealerships because they don't like that Elon Musk has actually found the grift out and is cutting it out. The NGOs that have laundered money for Democrat causes for years, it's all coming to an end and they don't know how to handle it. So anyway, as far as sort of some of these rulings, I would point out that in the most recent case with the Venezuelan thugs who've now been imprisoned in El Salvador, the apex of presidential power is, as Justice Jackson wrote in the Youngstown Steel case in his concurrence, is that the apex when you have congressional delegation or core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief. And the district court, in citing the Alien Enemies Act, where whether wartime or invasion or predatory incursion, the president is acting within his authority, the district court has no more authority to tell the president he can't do that than they can, speaking of national security, directing troop movements or missile strikes. So when we talk about separation of powers, it does go both ways. It does go both ways, and there's been this obsession with getting all of you on the record about following court orders. The President of the United States has said he will follow court orders time and time again. But this
wasn't just a generic rant. Schmitt specifically pointed fingers at prominent Democrats like Chuck Schumer, calling out past comments that, according to Schmitt, contributed to political violence, including protests outside Supreme Court justices' homes. He even referenced firebombings of Tesla dealerships, yes Tesla, linking it back to frustration over Elon Musk cutting off what he called the grift of NGO funding for Democrat causes. This is more than a political jab. It's a full-blown indictment of the modern Democratic Party's direction. Schmitt also touched on presidential power. He defended recent executive actions involving Venezuelan immigrants, citing Justice Jackson's famous Youngstown concurrence, saying the president was acting within his constitutional authority. In his view, courts overstepping into national security is just as dangerous as presidents ignoring court orders. It's all about balance, he says, and Democrats only seem to care about that when it's politically convenient. He reminded everyone of his lawsuit against China over the COVID-19 pandemic, claiming a recent $24 billion default judgment.
And it's this desire to just stir up something because they have nothing. That's what's going on here. I did want to ask, with the time that I have left, Mr. Davis, you have done a lot of great work investigating a lot of things. The origins of COVID, I'm just curious. So when I was Attorney General of Missouri, we actually sued Communist China for unleashing the COVID pandemic. We received a $24 billion default judgment recently. But when we filed that lawsuit, it was interesting, the reaction. You were called a racist if you implied anyway that it leaked out of Wuhan, which was very obvious to most people. And now the intelligence community, who for some reason resisted that conclusion for such a long time, has basically said that's what happened. What do you think, as you were investigating this, what was behind that? What was behind this resistance to all the evidence and the obvious nature of the origins of COVID?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I appreciated speaking with you yesterday. That was great. The report that I authored on the House Intelligence Committee about the origins of COVID, unfortunately, is still classified, so I can't really get into the specifics of what it found. We did do an unclassified summary, which, just given the nature of the underlying information, was unfortunately not terribly revelatory. I would note that when then President Biden instructed the intelligence community to do a sort of comprehensive review on the COVID origins, the subsequent report they put out and the declassified version of it, there were serious flaws with.
And when he questioned a former intelligence official about why the lab leak theory was dismissed early on, the answers were vague, with much of the intel report still classified. But it raises serious questions. Was there a coordinated effort to downplay the origins of COVID-19? And why did it take so long for the narrative to shift? Love him or hate him, Eric Schmitt's message hits a nerve. His criticism of Democrats isn't just partisan, it's strategic. It's designed to call out what he sees as a party that's lost its way, focusing more on narratives than on leadership or solutions.
Flaws with. And I think those flaws, you mentioned that individual components have changed their public view, but I do think that until there's more transparency about what was going on within those elements of the intelligence community, the people won't really know the full story, unfortunately.
Thank you. Well, it is also interesting that that Fauci played a very significant role in this, and maybe we'll be hearing from him in some committee hearings sometime soon too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so Mr. Eisenberg, Mr. Schmitt, Mr. Davis, thank you for your testimony today, and to your family and friends who've made the visit. We thank you as well. It's a momentous day, I know, in your lives, and we're excited about what's to come. For everyone's information, written questions to Mr. Eisenberg and Mr. Schmitt can be submitted for the record until April 2nd at 5 p.m. Written questions to Mr. Davis can be submitted for the record until tomorrow, March 27th at 5 p.m. I'll ask the nominees to answer and return the questions to the committee as soon as possible so that we can quickly schedule your confirmation votes. With that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
Fiery statements aren't just for show, they're shaping the talking points of the Republican base. Make sure you click that subscribe button. I drop weekly breakdowns just like this, cutting through the noise and giving you the real story behind the headlines. So, was this just another partisan rant or a brutally honest critique of the current political climate? One thing's clear, Eric Schmitt isn't holding back. Let me know what you think in the comments.